Agrippa on things of the sun, solar things. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. This is Taliesin McKnight, and today we're going to look at those things that are solar and to deal with the sun. And today I'm going to talk about how to put this into practice. So, these videos that talk about the correspondences of the sun or the moon or Saturn or Mars, these videos are meant to be used as reference. So whenever you need to go back to a certain planet, or you want to remember what stone or plant or animals are associated with a certain planet, you can go back to this video for reference. So this video on my YouTube channel and throughout, this is intended to be a video for reference. Which on my Facebook, I made a new pinned comment. And on my pinned comment, I give a link to my YouTube video and my Agrippa playlist that has all of these readings of Agrippa. So with my Agrippa playlist, you're able to cycle through these different videos. These are readings of Agrippa. So if every day you want to listen to a video or whatever, you're able to do that. So pinned to the top of my Facebook, pinned to the top of my Facebook is a comment with my YouTube channel, my Agrippa playlist, and my Shem Angel playlist, since that's what people tend to be focused on a lot right now. So today we're looking at solar things associated with the sun. And this is actually very practical. It is possible to try to perform magic as a magician as closely as possible, or at least to be influenced by this magic from the 16th century from reading the text. It talks about what stones, plants, and animals are associated with different planets. So with the plants, you could make an incense of the planet. And with the stones or metals, you could make a talisman. And you could burn the incense and place the talisman in the incense smoke and call on the spirits of the planets, as are described in the table of the video on the chapter on the table of the planets. So we're going deeper into this text. So we're looking at the 3 books of occult philosophy. Book 1, chapter 23. So if you have a copy of Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy, you can go to book 1, chapter 23. I use the old James Freak translation of Agrippa that goes back to the 1600s. There is a modern translation of the Latin of Agrippa into English by Eric Perdue, which was done just a few years ago. But in order for these videos to be public and not to infringe upon anyone's rights, I provide this older version by James Freak from the 17th century of English, of the translation of the Latin of Agrippa into English from the 1600s from James Freak. And Donald Tyson has left a lot of really useful footnotes, and since I have to do this older version of the text because I have that free liberty to do so, I also encourage people because of the excellent footnotes, so it works out in my favor. I already have a favoritism towards the James Freak translation of Agrippa, which I've been working with throughout my youth. So today we're looking at solar things, things associated with the sun. And today is a Sunday. So the 3 books of occult philosophy, book 1, chapter 23. How we shall know what stars natural things are under, and what things are under the sun, which are called solary. So today we're looking at solar things. So if we look at book 1, chapter 23, how we shall, and Agrippa starts from the beginning. Agrippa gives us the ABCs of magic from the 16th century Renaissance magic perspective. Agrippa is breaking this down from the beginning. We've made it all the way to chapter 3, and if you've been following these videos, we've covered a lot of ground. So if you go through the last 22 chapters that we've read of Agrippa, it goes through a lot of stuff. We're at this level, we're already starting to obtain a little bit of a more sophisticated view of magic. So by the time you get to chapter 23, you understand why certain things would be solar or of the sun. You don't have a question mark why. Why is this solar? Once you read this, because you've already read the previous 22 chapters. And yet still, Agrippa makes it obvious. He still explains the why. So Agrippa, this page that I have is 1,000 something pages that I have, but even on chapter 23, he goes pretty well in depth. How we shall know what stars natural things are under, and what things are under the sun, which are called solary. So now I'm quoting Agrippa here. Now it is very hard to know what star or sign everything is under. He says it's very hard to know it's hard to know what planet a plant or a stone goes to, right? He's saying it's very difficult to know what it's ascribed to. Now it is very hard to know what star or sign everything is under. Yet it is known through the imitation of their rays, or motion, or figure of the superiors. Also some of them are known by their colors and odors. Also some by the effects of their operations, answering to some stars. So here we need to take a pause. Now it is very hard to know what star or sign everything is under, yet it is known through the imitation of their rays or motion or figure of the superiors, and also some of them are known through their colors and odors, also some through the effects of their operations answering to the stars. So it's hard to know what planet or what zodiac sign something is under. Yet it's known by the imitation of their rays or motion. So, for example, Venus, it used to be believed, followed like a pentagram type pattern in its rotation around the sun. So Venus was said to have a pentagram. So you could say that a flower that had a 5-pointed, that's an example, would be associated with Venus. Now it is so we're taking Agrippa and we're trying to give an example here. We're trying to extrapolate, what does this mean? We're not just reading Agrippa. We're going a little bit deeper here. Now it is very hard to know what star or sign everything is under, yet it is known through the imitation of their rays or motion. So if the motion of the planet is a 5-point pattern, you can know that a 5-pointed plant as an example. Or the figure of the superiors. Think of a tiger's eye. Tiger's eye has a circle with a dot in the center, which is the image of the sun. So tiger's eye is an example of there being a figure of the superiors within the stone. Also, some of them are known by their colors. So golden stones, a stone that is gold or yellow could be considered solar. A stone that is black may be considered of Venus. Of Saturn. A stone that is black could be considered of Saturn. A stone that is white or silver could be considered of the moon. Red of Mars. So we could see through the color of a stone if a stone has a golden color or a silver color. From a Renaissance magic perspective, this silver stone probably corresponded to Venus, to the moon, or this golden or yellow stone may correspond to the sun. So by its color and odor, the smell, so something spicy, something that has spice to it, could be considered martial, or sweet could be considered of Venus or the sun, or something with a foul odor could be considered of Saturn. Also, some by the effects of their operation. So when he then says, also some by the effects of their operation, some of these plants and stones and animals, you just have to see by finding out their experiment. Okay? So when Agrippa says, and some by the effects of their operations, sometimes you just have to find out their experiment. Answering to some stars. So now having this context, let's reread that. Now it is very hard to know what star or sign everything is under. Yet it is known through the imitation of their rays or motion. I talked about the pentagram in Venus, the motion, or figure of the superiors. I talked about the tiger's eye having a circle with a dot, which is the sigil of the sun. Also, some of them are known by their colors, like a golden stone is of the sun, or a silver stone is of the moon, or a red stone is of Mars, or a black stone of Saturn. And there are different traditions on that and different versions of that. And odors. So a spicy smell can be considered martial, or a foul odor could be considered Saturnian, or a sweet smell of Venus or Jupiter. Also by the effects of their operation. So some of these things, it may not be obvious in other ways. You just have to experiment with the stone or plant, and you'll see by the effects of the operation, answering to some stars. So here you understand a little bit. He says that it's very hard to find what planet or star a stone or plant is under. But by looking at the imitation of its rays or motion, its color, its smell, by looking at the effects that it has. So if something is a sedative, it probably would not be of Mars or the sun if it's a sedative. That would be a more Saturnian, which is associated with death in the grave, or with the moon, which we think of nighttime type of thing. If something is a stimulant in its effects, you would think more Mars. You would not think of the moon with the stimulant normally. If something makes you bold and courageous, that sounds very martial. So what Agrippa is saying is that some things, it may not be obvious through its sight, through its color, or through its smell, which is the odor, or through its taste, or whatever else. The plant may exhibit it just through experimentation. It may be deceptive. It may look like a lunar plant, but when you start experimenting with it, you have a very martial qualities. So over time, magicians, through experimentation, would associate a certain planet or stone with Mars. And it doesn't have any obvious thing to do with its color or smell. And we could also see that magicians were using the five senses. They were using the texture, they were using the smell of the plant, they were using the color of the plant through their vision, They may thump the roots and see what kind of root is it. So through sound, taste, touch, smell, through the intuition, through all of the senses, they were observing the natural world. And this again goes to the idea that magic speaks to us through the subtle voice of nature. Magic speaks to us through the fire, through the rustling of the wind, to the roaring of the rivers, through the sound of the rain, through the pictures that we see in the clouds and the sky, through animals and through plants and stones. We are beginning to observe the natural world, and we're beginning to look at the world around us. The world around us, instead of just being a job where you clock in or you get in your car, or you come home and you take a bath and you watch a series and you go to sleep, the world around us, being aware of that subtle voice. Often we don't even hear someone speaking to us if we're in a convenience store. Someone may say our name, and we have our mind on so many things that we don't even listen to that physical voice. We don't hear them at first. How much more are we not listening to the subtle voice of the spirits and the subtle world? So, from that first paragraph of Agrippa, we understand that it's not easy to see what planet a stone or plant is, but we observe from its color. If it's golden, it may be solar. If it's silver, it's lunar. From its smell, foul odors would be associated with Saturn, spicy odors with Mars, sweet smells with Venus. So through its smell, its sight, you may notice just simply through its effects. So I'm going to reread that. So it's important when reading Agrippa to really look into what the text is providing. So hopefully that's useful for some of y'all that are reading the text. We're still in this first paragraph. So, how we shall know what stars natural things are under, and what things are under the sun, which are called solary. So it is very hard to know what star or sign everything is under. Yet it is known through the imitation of their rays or motion, or figures of the superiors. Also, some of them are known by their colors or odors. Also, some by the effects of their operations, answering to some stars. So now Agrippa is going to go into the solar things associated with the sun. All right, let's take a look here. Let's see. All right. Oh no, hold on a minute. Was that public? Oh, I see. Okay. Sorry about that, y'all. So then solary things, or things under the power of the sun, are amongst elements the lucid flame. So out of air, fire, water, and earth, the flame, fire, is associated with the sun. So it's very important to understand that the 7 planets are associated with the 4 humors and also the 4 elements. So some of them have 2 qualities, like Venus is associated with air and water. So then solary things, or things under the power of the sun, are amongst elements the lucid flame. So fire associates with the sun. How do we use that in magic? We know that if we have a flame of a candle, that associates with the sun more than a glass of water would, or a dish of salt, or whatever. Okay, so we know that fire, if we want to invoke the sun, we think of these material things we have below as like lures that draw and attract and draw down the celestial qualities. So we see that if we want to draw the sun, the element we're going to use is going to be a flame. So then solary things, or things under the power of the sun, are amongst elements the lucid flame, and the humors the pure blood and the spirit of life. So the four humors were four liquids in the body. So we had blood that was associated with air. We had phlegm, or we had yellow color, which was fire, yellow color. And then we had phlegm in the west. And phlegm has to do with like lubricating things like in the organs and stuff. It lubricated between the organs was phlegm. And phlegm included things like mucus, spit, sexual fluids from a man or a woman. All of these things could be considered phlegm. Sweat. So phlegm was one of the four humors. And then you had black bile. And black bile, or melancholy. So amongst the four humors, and this goes into like ancient views of medicine, if the four humors, which are these four types of fluids in the body, the blood, the yellow color, the phlegm, and the melancholy or black color, these things, the imbalance can cause disease. So then solary things, or things under the power of the sun, are amongst elements the lucid flame, in the humors the pure blood and spirit of life, amongst taste that which is quick mixed with sweetness. Now, what does quick mean? The word quick means animated. Quick means quickly, like we think of fast, quick. But if you look at this antiquated form of language that James Freak would have been using in the 1600s, so if you want to understand what quick meant here, you have to understand what quick meant in the 1600s during the times of James Freak. Quick means animated, alive, alert. It was in the translation of King James of the Psalm verse last night with Yahweh. Quicken me, O Lord. Quicken is to give life. So quick means animated, alive, alert. Think of a stimulant. So a solar flavor, you could think of mint. It says here that among tastes, that which is quick mixed with sweetness. So it's important for us to not just read through Agrippa and not understand what he's saying or pass over it like it's not important. Every sentence is important. Agrippa says here that the taste is quick mixed with sweetness. What does quick mean? Quick is that which animates and gives life and makes alert. You could say spiciness, for example, cinnamon or peppermint or mint. So like mint, think peppermint, cinnamon, things that are sweet but spicy. Or things that have heat, like cinnamon candy. It has a heat to it, but it's also sweet. Amongst metals, gold, by reason of its splendor, and it's receiving that from the sun which makes it cordial. So gold has the color of the sun. Now it is very hard to know what star or sign everything is under, yet it is known through the imitation of their rays or motion, or figure of the superiors. Also some of them are known by their colors and odors. Also some by the effects of their operations, answering to some of the stars. Do you see how much knowledge is packed into each sentence here? So then solary things, or things under the power of the sun, are, amongst elements, the lucid flame, in the humors, the pure blood and spirit of life, amongst tastes, that which is quick mixed with sweetness, Amongst metals, gold by reason of its splendor, and it's receiving that from the sun which makes it cordial. So in these videos, we're basically going to go line by line in Agrippa. And you could listen to my perspective, and you may end up disagreeing with it in the end. You may think that I'm it doesn't fit what you think, and that's fine. But my videos will serve its purpose. And amongst stones. So now we're getting into the stones, plants, and animals. So amongst stones, they which resemble the rays of the sun by their golden sparklings. Once again, this is like the doctrine of signatures, which they used back then, and Paracelsus used it. If you see a golden plant, yeah, warrior-like. Hi, Cassandra. How are you doing? I'm just seeing your comment here, Cassandra. So yeah, glittering in the sun, golden. So the doctrine of signatures. And among stones, they which resemble the rays of the sun by their golden sparklings. So it's talking about stones that have the golden glittering of the sun. And amongst stones, they which resemble the rays of the sun by their golden sparklings. As doth the glittering stone Aitites, which hath power against the falling sickness and poisons. Now it's about to get into a bunch of like mythical qualities of stones and plants. You have to understand that this is a type of mythology. We're used to mythology with Zeus or Mars, like Greco-Roman mythology, but this is a mythology of plants and animals, birds and fish. The idea that the Echinus or Remora can stop ships, and that this caused Mark Antony and Cleopatra to lose the War of Actium, which caused Mark Antony and Cleopatra to lose the war to Octavian. This type of idea that the Remora or Echinus could have stopped the ships of Caligula and caused the assassination of that Roman emperor. A plant or a stone or an animal that has a certain power. So this is the mythology. If we understand the mythology of plants, stones, and animals, we understand its folklore and its lore. We don't have to take everything literally. Just like we don't have to believe that Adam and Eve literally ate from a fruit, or we don't have to believe that, who was it, Adonis, or was born from the thigh of Zeus. Not Adonis, it was another one, but it doesn't matter. Or Athena born from the forehead of Zeus. Like, even if we don't take these things literally, we could understand some of their powers. So let's say that the text said that if you carry a certain root, police would run away from you. Maybe not literally, but maybe you could avoid the law. Or let's say that it says a certain root, if you carry it, no bullet and no sword will pierce your armor if you carry this root. Maybe that's not literally true, but if you carry it, it may protect you a little bit in combat. So even when we have to be careful, and we also have to be careful not to excuse or to reinterpret these ancient thinkers in a way that makes them more palatable to modern minds. That's the other side of the equation. But we could also extrapolate a magical use, even if it's not literal. And amongst stones, they which resemble the rays of the sun by their golden sparklings, as doth the glittering stone Aitites, which hath power against the falling sickness and poisons. So this stone, it says, protects against poisons. So also the stone which is called the eye of the sun, tiger eye, that has like a circle and a dot, the tiger eye. So also the stone which is called the eye of the sun, being the figure like to the apple of the eye, from the middle whereof shines forth a ray. It comforts the brain and strengthens the sight. So you could say that tiger eye could keep away evil eye, but it could also help the sight, he's saying. So the carbuncle, which shines by night, hath a virtue against all airy and vaporous poisons. So the chrysolite stone, and the chrysolite stone is a pale green form of olivine. It is also called peridot. So peridot and chrysolite are the same thing. Pale green form of olivine. It's also called peridot. Chryso means golden. So chrysolite stone is of a light green color, in which, when it is held against the sun, there shines forth a golden star. And this comforts those parts that serve for breathing, and helps those that be asthmatical. And if it be bored through, and the whole filled with the mane of an ass, and bound to the left arm, it drives away idle imaginations and melancholy fears. So someone that's insane, it's saying like bound to the hair of the mane of an ass, filled with the mane of an ass and bound to the left arm. It drives away idle imaginations and melancholy fears, and puts away foolishness. Now we can't be too apologetic either. Like clearly magicians back in the day, they did think that if you got the chrysolite stone, and if it be bored through, that's poke a hole through the stone, and filled with the mane of an ass and bound to the left arm, it drives away imaginations and melancholy fears, and puts away foolishness. So the stone called iris. I posted about iris on my Facebook. Iris means rainbow in Greek, in ancient Greek. Ancient Greek, iris means rainbow. And actually, this is shown. If you put a light through a iris stone, you will get a rainbow color. So what Agrippa's about to say, I went and researched it, and yeah, it's confirmed. And Pliny the Elder, who Agrippa's probably quoting in his Historia Naturalis, or natural history, kind of goes into that. The iris means rainbow, and if you put a light through it, it makes like a prism. It makes the different colors of the spectrum. And Agrippa acknowledges that, quoting Pliny probably. So the stone called iris, which I'm talking about, which is like crystal in color, being often found with 6 corners, which under some roof part thereof is held against the rays of the sun, and the other part held in the shadow. It gathers the ray of the sun into itself, which, whilst it sends them forth by ray of reflection, makes a rainbow appear on the opposite wall. So Agrippa is saying, if you take this stone and you put it in the sunlight and there's a shadow, it'll make a rainbow on the shadow. So it takes the sun and makes a prism. So Agrippa is saying that the iris is a stone of the sun. So let's take a look at this footnote here. Iris, a form of hexagonal quartz. So he said 6-sided. A form of hexagonal quartz that can be used as a prism to split light into its spectrum. Iris is the Greek word for rainbow. Now we're quoting Pliny the Elder from the 1st century. This guy died in the volcanic eruption of Vesuvius, like around Pompeii and all of that, in 79 AD. So this is from the 1st century, Pliny the Elder. This is what Pliny the Elder had to say, again showing that Agrippa is not just making stuff up. He's reading classical authors. Iris, a form of hexagonal quartz that can be used as a prism to split light into its spectrum. Iris is Greek for rainbow. Now we're going to quote Pliny the Elder. Quote, "It takes its name iris from the properties which it possesses, the rainbow. For when struck by the rays of the sun in a covered spot, it projects upon the nearest walls the form and diversified color of the rainbow, continually changing its tints and exciting admiration by the great variety of colors which it presents." That's Pliny the Elder, Historia Naturalis. So he says here, so the stone called iris, which is like crystal in color, being often found in 6 corners, which under some roof part of it is held against the rays of the sun, and the other part is held in shadow. It gathers the rays of the sun into itself, which whilst it sends them forth by ray of reflection, makes a rainbow appear on the opposite wall. Hi Lynn, how are you doing today? Also the stone heliotrope. Heliotrope is bloodstone. Okay, bloodstone or heliotrope. Bloodstone. Alright, so bloodstone or heliotrope. So the stone heliotropion. And if we look at the footnote, let's take a look at what the footnote says with bloodstone. It's very important to look at the footnotes. It's bloodstone. Also the stone heliotropion or bloodstone. Green like the jasper emerald, beset with red specks. That's what bloodstone looks like. It's green with red specks often. Also the stone heliotropion, green like the jasper emerald, beset with red specks, makes a man constant, renowned, and famous. Also it conduceth to long life. So the bloodstone is associated with the sun. Bloodstone is associated with the sun. It makes someone renowned and famous and constant. Constant means that they're not going from thing to thing. Constant means that they persevere. Constant, renowned, and famous. Renowned and famous is kind of the same thing. It's very important to study words and the meaning of words, because what I may say by a certain word may not mean the same thing that it means to you. So if I say purple, I may mean this hue, you may mean another, which is fine except for communication. If we're trying to communicate ideas throughout the centuries and through the ages, we want to understand the original idea as if we are sitting under Agrippa's feet and listening to his discourse. Also the stone heliotropion, bloodstone, green like the jasper emerald, beset with red specks, makes a man constant, renowned, and famous. Also it conduceth to long life. And the virtue of it indeed is most wonderful upon the beams of the sun. And it's talking about the bloodstone with the red specks, which it is said to turn into blood, that is, to appear of the color of blood, as if the sun were eclipsed, that is, when it is joined to the juice of an herb of the same name, and be put into a vessel full of water. There is also another virtue of it more wonderful, and that is upon the eyes of men, whose sight it doth so dim and dazzle, that it doth not suffer him that carries it to see it. And this it doth not do without the help of the herb of the same name, which is also called heliotropion. That's the herb, the footnote says the herb Heliotropium europaeum. So this is important. This is witchcraft. This is magic. Knowing herbs and plants and stones, knowing the language. This is the language of nature. So every tree is like a letter. Every stone is like a letter. This makes up a sacred alphabet. This is the language of nature. which is also called heliotropium. That is, following the sun. These virtues doth Albertus Magnus and William of Paris confirm in their writings. I highly recommend that people check out the Book of Secrets by pseudo Albertus Magnus, published in the 13th century. That has been a text that I've been reading through about the virtues of stones and plants and animals. It was published in the 13th century. That's pre-Renaissance. It's from the Middle Ages. So for me, it's not about saying that the ancient sages were correct or right, but understanding their perspective and seeing how magic has evolved throughout the ages. So we're not constantly just, we understand classical magic. The hyacinth, which Pliny the Elder ascribes to the blue sapphire, which is interesting. The hyacinth also hath a virtue from the sun against poisons and pestiferous vapors. It makes him that carries it to be safe and acceptable. It conduceth also to riches and wit. It strengthens the heart. Remember, the heart is ruled by Leo, ruled by the sun. It strengthens the heart. Being held in the mouth, it doth wonderfully cheer up the mind. Also there is the stone pyrophilus of a red mixture, which Albertus Magnus saith Asclepius makes mention of in one of his epistles unto Octavius Augustus, saying that there is a certain poison so wonderful cold, which preserves the heart of man, being taken out from burning, so that if for any time it be put into the fire, it is turned into a stone. And this is that stone which is called pyrophilus, from the fire. It hath a wonderful virtue against poison, and makes him that carries it to be renowned and dreadful to his enemies. But above all, that stone is most solary, which Apollonius is reported to have found and called Pantara, which draws other stones to it as the lodestone doth iron. And I don't know what this is. And looking in the footnotes, Pantara, it looks like Donald Tyson doesn't know what this is. What is Pantara? But above, we don't know what this is. Maybe y'all know on the internet. But above all, that stone is most solary, which Apollonius is reported to have found and called Pantara, which draws other stones to it, as the lodestone doth iron. Most powerful against all poisons. It is called by some Pantherus, because it is spotted like the beast called the panther. It is therefore also called Pantocras, because it contains all colors. Aaron calls it Evanthum. There are also other solary stones, as the topaz. So topaz has like an orange color often. The topaz, the chrysoprase, which is the green stone I've been carrying, associated with Capricorn and elsewhere in Agrippa. There are also other solary stones, as the topaz, chrysoprase, the ruby. Ruby is not just Mars, it's also solar in Agrippa. The ruby is not just Mars, it's solar also. So the topaz, which is also Mercury. The topaz, many of these have several like planetary attributions. So the topaz, the chrysoprase, the ruby, the pelagius. So also the auripigmentern, and things of a golden color and very lucid. So he's saying things of a golden color and very lucid. So how do we apply this? Through the metals and stones, we're able to construct talismans. We're able to construct statues. We're able to make scrying vessels to communicate with the gods or spirits. So, if you're going to communicate with spirits of the sun or of Mars or the sun or whatever, you could use a general clear stone, but you could also use one of these solar stones associated with the sun to communicate with spirits of the sun. Or you could use a carnelian or ruby. You could use emerald. You could use these stones to communicate with spirits. And probably ancient magicians had ancient rings they would peer into the ring on their hand. So you could use the stone for scrying vessels. You could use the stones to carve a talisman into. Sure, it seems expensive, but this is like for the rest of your life. Something that's really important to you. You might be willing to make a talisman out of a stone or a metal. So the stones are often used for talismans. The stones are often used for things like scrying vessels. Okay, so that's how you can connect a solar stone with the sun. In practice, that would mean you may make a talisman out of this metal or stone. As a lure to draw down, it is going to attract those forces from the celestial domain. Now it's going to talk about plants. Amongst plants, and when we say plants, think of incenses, think of oils. So a planetary incense, such as sandalwood or storax, frankincense, and myrrh, come from specific trees where you make a wound in the tree and a sap comes out. That sap is like the blood of the tree. That sap that's protective when you make a wound in the frankincense or the myrrh tree, that sap produces the resin of the incense. So incenses and oils. Oils are used to anoint candles. They're used to anoint scrying vessels. So you could say, how do you put this into practice? Solar stones can be talismans. You don't have to inscribe them. You could just have the stone. This is a stone of the sun. I'm going to consecrate it and gather it while the sun is in Leo at the hour of the sun. So you don't have to inscribe it, but stones can be scrying crystals that could be talisman. Plants could be incenses. You can burn them as an offering to the planet, such as burning bay leaves to the sun as an offering. And they could also be incenses that you could wave the talisman in as you call upon the god names and the spirit or intelligence or whatever, as you see in the tables of Agrippa later. So that's how to put Agrippa into practice. Now we get to the plants and also of the trees. Those are solary, which turn towards the sun as the marigold. Now it's interesting if you look up the etymology of marigold. If you look up marigold, it probably comes from where wealthy people would offer gold or money to the Virgin Mary, but poor people would offer the flower because it's Mary's gold. They don't have wealth, but they have flowers growing outside. So the peasant class would offer marigolds. So that's where you probably get the name marigold. Even in the Pseudo Albertus Magnus, the Book of Secrets published in the 13th century, so from the 1200s, you have this idea of marigold being solar. And you can certainly see it from its color. Amongst plants also and trees, those are solary, which turn towards the sun as the marigold. And those which fold in their leaves when the sun is near upon setting. But when it riseth, unfoldeth their leaves by little and little. The lote tree also is solary, as is manifest by the figure of the fruit and leaves. So also peony, celandine, balm, ginger, Ginger has a sweet but spicy taste. Ginger is solar in Agrippa. Gentian, Dittany, and Vervain. Vervain is also Venusian, I think, venereal, but also solar. All this is solar, which is of use in prophesying and expiations. Kind of connects with like the sun and the oracle at Delphi. As also driving away evil spirits, like the light and the shadow. The bay tree also is consecrated to Phoebus. So is the cedar, the palm tree, the ash, the ivy, the vine, and whatsoever repel poisons and lightnings, and those which never fear the extremities of the winter. So among solar things are those that never fear the extremities of the winter. So you could think of evergreens like pine trees or Christmas trees. Christmas trees or pine trees, they're still thriving in the winter. So also solar are those things which never fear the extremities of the winter. Solar are also mint. Remember where it said that the tastes are quick but sweet? The mint. Solary also are mint, mastic, zetuary, saffron, balsam, amber. Think of its golden color, amber. Musk. Musk actually traditionally comes from a particular type of deer. Yellow honey. So yellow honey is solar in Agrippa. Honey. So honey is solar in Agrippa. Yellow honey. Lignum aloes, cloves, cinnamon. Cinnamon is mercurial and solar in Agrippa. Cinnamon. It has that spicy but sweet quality as it says the taste cinnamon. Calamus aromaticus, pepper, frankincense, sweet marjoram. Libotnus, which Orpheus calls the sweet perfume of the sun. So you could see how the stones could be used for scrying stones of the sun. They could be used for talismans and the metals. And the plants could be a talisman. You could have like a mojo bag with the plants in it. But plants also are oils, can create oils and incenses. So you burn an incense of the sun. You wave a stone or metal of the sun in the incense with images of the sun, calling upon the intelligence of the sun, with the names of God at the hour of the sun. So this is all like a personal telephone number is the best way I could describe it. So plants and stones are used to make incenses, oils. Oils can anoint anything that you want to add the planetary virtue or power. So stones are used for scrying devices and talismans often. Plants are often used for incenses and oils. And this is where you get into like the witch's brews and things. Animals. I always tell people I don't agree with hurting animals for magic. I do not agree. I'm strongly against. I am absolutely against like harming animals in magic, but also as omens. You may notice a black bird on a Saturday of Saturn, blackbirds of Saturn and bats. Crows and bats are both black-winged creatures associated with Saturn. The toad could be associated with the moon or Saturn. Ravenous creatures, like predatory creatures that consume, like the screech owl or the eagle or whatever, those things are martial. The eagle is also very Jupiterian. So through understanding and observing very vocal birds that like mimic speech, like the parrot, for example, could be considered mercurial. Things that are nocturnal or white in color could be considered lunar. So you're understanding the language of birds. Some birds are solar. That really gives you something to think about. I really encourage people if you want to understand Agrippa, whenever you see a bird, ask yourself, which of the 7 ancient planets is this bird? Or if you see a plant, think which of the 7 planets, or a stone, or a color. It's good to learn to classify the world in this way. You're speaking the language of magic, and perhaps the universe will begin to speak to you through a series of puns and symbols. So if you know a certain language of omens and birds and trees, maybe the universe can begin to speak to you in that way. Perhaps. Now we're getting to animals, which I encourage as omens, not using animals in magic. That's not what I do. I don't like that. But as omens, or in your dreams, you may see a certain animal. Amongst animals, those are solar, which are magnanimous, courageous, ambitious of victory and renown. As the lion, king of beasts. So the lion is solar. The crocodile, the spotted wolf, the ram, the boar, the bull. King of the herd, which was by the Egyptians at Heliopolis dedicated to the sun, which they called Verities. And an ox was consecrated to Apis at Memphis, and in Herminthus a bull by the name of Pathis. The wolf also was consecrated to Apollo and Latona. Also the beast called baboon is Solary, which 12 times in a day, that is every hour, barks, and in the equinoctium pisseth 12 times every hour. It says at the equinox, he pisseth. It says pisseth. P-I-S-S, piss, like you urinate, use the bathroom. I don't know. To me, it's interesting that James Freak translated pisseth, like piss, like urine. It's interesting. So, also the beast called baboon is Solary, which 12 times in a day, that is every hour, barks, and in every time of equinoctium pisseth 12 times every hour. The same also doth it in the night, when the Egyptians did engrave him upon their fountains. So we're talking about omens here. In dreams, scrying crystals, out in the natural world, you may see certain animals that'll make you think of certain planets. That's an omen. It's kind of maybe a message or even a presence of that planetary power, beginning to analyze the natural world in terms of the 7 categories of the planets. Also among birds, these are solary. The phoenix, it's animal mythology and plant mythology and stone mythology, the phoenix. Also amongst birds, these are solary. The phoenix, being but one of that kind, and the eagle, queen of the birds. Also the vulture, I would think of that as Saturn, but the vulture of the sun, the swan, and those which sing at the rising sun, and as it were calling upon it to rise, as the cock, crow, and the hawk, which, because in the divinity of the Egyptians it is an emblem of the spirit and light, is by Porphyry reckoned amongst the solary birds. So the hawk is solar, like Ra or Horus, even in Agrippa. That ancient Egyptian wisdom passes on. So that's pretty cool. Moreover, all such things as have some resemblance of the works of the sun, as worms shining in the night, like night crawlers, worms shining in the night, and the beetle, which is a creature that lies under cow dung, also according to Appius' interpretation, such whose eyes are changed according to the course of the sun, are accounted solary in those things which come of them. So the beetle, think of like Kephra. So that's interesting. It's solar in Agrippa. And amongst fish, the sea calf. The footnote says the seal. So the seal, that's interesting. Amongst fish, the sea calf or seal is chiefly solary, who doth resist lightning. Also shellfish and the fish called pulmo, both which shine in the night, and the fish called stella, for his parching heat. So things that are hot or full of light are seen as solary here. And margery, which also have a king, and being dried are hardened into a stone of a golden color. So that is Cornelius Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy, book 1, chapter 23, on what things are solar or under the rule of the sun. And this is the beginning. Today is a Sunday. We're getting into this. Things are really starting to pick up with Agrippa. We're really starting to get into the more interesting material, which I'm really excited about. So we see that stones, plants, and animals and metals have planetary qualities. And through plants and through plants, basically, we're able to make incenses and oils. You can anoint candles with them. You can anoint scrying stones. The stones can make scrying stones. They can make talismans. The metals make talismans. The oils and incenses from the plants, you can make a planetary incense. And animals are the omens. So here we have a language through animals. We have incenses, we have talismans, and later on we'll learn the names of the spirits and their characters that we can invoke with the grip and magic. So later on we will see different names and sigils of spirits, specific spirits that we use. But basically stones, plants, and animals, they're ones that correspond to the sun. And you would use a solar incense or animal or stone or metal to invoke the sun. You could think of them as types of a glass or vessel you're calling down to receive that quality. You could also think of them as lures that draw down and attract celestial virtues into material things. So if you look at this image of the magician, often if you look at the magician on the tarot card, like the Builders of the Adytum or BOTA deck, or even the Rider-Waite-Smith, he points up and points down. Or even the famous Baphomet of Eliphas Levi, he's drawing from above and channeling down. He's drawing celestial virtues down, and so through the fumigation or burning of incense of the planet, you can call on the spirit name with your voice, and you have the metal or stone of the planet in the incense smoke as you call on the spirit to imbue the talisman. And so through spirit evocation and talismanic magic, this is kind of the ABCs of how this would work in the Renaissance. So I don't encourage anyone to believe my videos. I don't encourage anyone to believe in any of these things. What I encourage people to do is to continue to experiment over time, like try these things out and see what you get out of it. Do the spirit scrying, do the talismans, and work it. So anyways, that is the 3 books of occult philosophy. Book 1, we made it all the way to chapter 23, those things that are solary under the power of the sun. So thank you everyone that has joined me so far. It is a great pleasure to provide these videos. By the way, I put a pinned comment on my Facebook. On my Facebook now, there's a pinned comment. And in my pinned comment, it has a link to my YouTube channel. It has a link to all my Agrippa videos, so you can just listen to Agrippa. I love that I provided that. People can already listen to hours and hours of Agrippa on my videos. It's such an honor. And not just Agrippa, but the Shem Angels. There's a Shem Angel reference playlist. So if you go to my Facebook, if you're on YouTube, if you go to the pinned comment and go to the bottom of my pinned comment at the top of the video, there's a pinned comment on YouTube. You should see a link to my Facebook. At the top of my Facebook pin is my YouTube channel, my playlist for the Agrippa. All these videos on Agrippa are collected into a playlist in the Shem Angel videos. So please on Facebook, check out my pinned comment. If you're not on my Facebook, you're just on YouTube, I highly recommend you to follow my Facebook. I'm out of friend slots, but you could follow. It's the same thing as friends. I really encourage people that are on my YouTube to connect with me on Facebook and follow me, because there are things on Facebook that I don't put on YouTube. So that is it, and that is Agrippa on solar things. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and I will see y'all in the next video. See y'all in the next video. All right. Have a great day, y'all. Thank you so much.